All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order then. Need to do roll call.
Sure. Ms. Douglas is excused. Mr. Hamilton, Ms. Hetland,
Here.
Mr. Jacobson, Ms. Makowski,
Here.
Mr. Morrison,
Here.
Mr. Patterson,
Here.
Ms. Salmon,
Here.
Ms. Waller.
Here. Any changes to the agenda? I don't believe so. We need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Did anybody have any changes or corrections? All in favor of voting to approve? Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. So we're moving right ahead to the strategic planning discussion. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay.
Pauline, are you ready? So, hi, I'm Elizabeth Simpson, and I know some of you. I have received public arts grants, and I was very close friends with Anna Hochhalter in the beginning, so I know a lot about the evolution of the program from a third-party standpoint. And I'm here today to support you guys in doing a little bit of strategic planning. I understand that kind of happens every once in a while, and the main function of this is to give Pauline support and input to the decision she's about to make as regards to planning for the next year and making up a budget. So that the sketch of that is that the budget would be decided on in March, right, and then presented to City Council in April. So that's what this is for. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but I have a history of working with lots of grassroots groups and nonprofit groups and small businesses and some large businesses in the university, doing a lot of strategic planning, and my little tagline is that I help people figure out what they want to do and how to do it. So strategic planning is my bag, and I'm really excited to be here to help this. I happen to be biased towards this program. So what can I say? I want to start off with Pauline just giving us a kind of a very quick level recap just to remind us about the program at large. She's not going to go into detail about the specific initiatives or the committees or anything like that, but just to remind us of the structure of the program so that we understand where this meeting fits into a larger picture of her, Brandon, City Council, etc.
So thank you all for being here, and I just have a quick announcement. I recently been promoted to Public Arts Coordinator. It's just official yesterday. So
Congratulations.
I'm really excited to work with you for much longer time, you know.
So do you get a bigger office?
Cubicle stays the same. It's more cramped now with more materials everywhere. But really excited. And also I'd like to welcome Jason, who's our newest member, just jumping right in as we do strategic planning, so welcome.
Thank you.
So from my understanding right now, we have many different subcommittees, and we would meet every month, but then the subcommittees would also meet with me once in a while just to recap and to, you know, make any recommendations, which is also a challenge because, you know, we meet every month, so it's hard to make decisions in between, and we have to kind of wait and discuss everything as a group. But right now we have a lot of great programs going on. We have, you know, Arts at the Corridor, sculptures, murals, Art Now, Arts in the Schools, and I hope this meeting will help us kind of, you know, redefine what we want from each of these elements, and hopefully we'll, you know, get a clearer direction.
So, as we know, Pauline, or the person who's in Pauline's role, but it's Pauline now, and that's wonderful, right. is kind of the day-to-day implementer, and the commission serves a really vital role, largely in drawing on the expertise of the many more people than the city could have on staff to be able to implement the program and give guidance to her as she goes forward. So wanting to reiterate, actually, would you be so kind, Pauline? I asked Pauline to tell me some of the reasons that she appreciated you guys in the role of the commission. If you wouldn't mind just reiterating some of those, that would be great, because it was really helpful to hear and understand what your role is.
I've only, you know, met you guys probably 3-4 times, but I have to say that from that little experience, I feel that everyone's really easy to connect with and, you know, easy to reach. I never have a hard time trying to contact anyone, trying to push anyone to do something. So thank you for your participation and for volunteering your time. And I think a lot of you, actually all of you, have such great experience in the arts, and you have kind of a broad understanding. You're open-minded to changes and to new forms of art, so I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thanks. So the goal, sorry we're doing a ping pong here. That will stop shortly. Sorry. Sorry. So today's meeting, as probably we know, it's strategic planning happens at the level of a kind of a long-term visionary position, and that's oftentimes your role, your input is a long-term thinking process about the bigger picture. So there's no decisions that are getting made out of this meeting today. The input from this meeting is going to go to Pauline as she figures out what's happening next. There will most likely be some level of follow-up because we won't be able to do kind of ground level detail discussion today given our time constraints. There'll be probably a level of follow-up to find out in the next week or so, what did you drive away thinking, oh, I have a brilliant idea, here's what it is. So there will be a little bit of follow-up to capture that as well. But first, before we begin with any process, we want to make sure that we understand the purpose of the meeting. It's to give Pauline input about the long-term planning, the next step in long-term planning, and to do that in light of the purpose of the program at large. Oh, thank you.
Eventually you might need that.
Did you mention they were considered? Yes, you did. So, for a minute, I just want to touch back to the graduate school where it's operationalizing. But anyway, to understand what do we mean when we say this? When the program exists to do this, what are we talking about? So that as we assess today where things are with the current program and how well it is meeting this vision, we know what are the criteria that we're trying to match. Oftentimes with a vision, because it's meant to last for really a long time, like 10, 20, 50, the life of the organization, the vision often is of more general level. And then the mission, which you guys don't have a specific mission, but in your case the mission would be, I would say, the current operating programs that you have are what your mission is. The mission would be more of a 3 to 5 year scope. So looking at the vision being to foster, the purpose, to foster a city where all residents, emerging artists, established artists, and non-artists alike can engage in the arts and where artists can thrive and feel valued. I just want to get a quick sense of what are we talking about. So we have some people here. We've got emerging artists, established artists, and non-artists. And artist, I gotta say, means a lot of different things. So just throwing out for us to get a little bit on the same page, and we don't have to agree on this, but who are we talking about when we say artists? Like, it might be, what media are we talking about? Are we talking about a certain level? Maybe someone in the room has an idea. Oh, an established artist is somebody who does not get income from any other source. Where do we have definitions that we're aware of? Because oftentimes in a room, people can have different definitions but not know it. So let's start throwing out, what do we mean by artists? Who are artists? Or who are non-artists?
I'll go first since I've been here the longest.
Yeah, bring it.
When we started out, we thought about people who were artists, painters, sculptors, musicians, landscape designers. We tried to encompass any art form that would enhance the community. Oh, it's getting colorful now. Looks good. It could be art, some sort of book, people who make books, posters, graphic designers. We tried not to limit it to
drama
exclusive
and musicians.
actors, all instrumentalists, storytellers. We weren't trying to limit opportunities.
This is in the context of how like the Urbana Arts Commission can engage with these people.
Yeah, so if the purpose of the program is to support both all residents, so everybody, so who is everybody? We're saying everybody is people who are artists, they're emerging artists, and they're non-artists. We're just trying to understand who this is. So when you have prongs of the program to support these different categories of people, we know who we're talking about. Right? So for example, a professional artist might need support on the level of being able to do outreach and personal marketing, that sort of thing, whereas a non-artist wouldn't necessarily need that sort of support. What they might want is an opportunity like Art at the Market, sometime to just get their hands dirty. So when we want to understand who are we, this is the question, who are we serving? Right? You've got these 3 categories. Why do you have 3 categories? It doesn't just say all residents, it has 3 categories. So we're not trying to rehash the vision, we're just trying to interpret it for the sake of today to understand what this means. Does that?
Yeah. And because I asked because I really, from my perspective, anybody who says they're an artist,
That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, especially if it's people who, you know, just want to have activity to do. I mean, if it's an art, it's an art.
Yeah, dance,
And if you're doing it, you're an artist.
Yeah,
mime,
yeah.
dancers, mimes, architects.
Great. Other things we want to throw up here?
Puppeteers.
Yes.
Oh, are you a puppeteer?
Yes.
Oh, great.
All right.
I mean, I'm like, we can
Oh,
have
we
check
need to
box. You know how
talk.
people are. We just like check box.
Later, we'll talk.
Okay. And part of this is to say, not everybody's in the room, right? So part of it is to name who it is we're trying to address so we can keep them in mind later. And if we say, oh my gosh, we only have projects that support the theater, we really should broaden out to make sure we're supporting more types because it's concentrated. We're going to keep these people in the room, right? So these are in the category of artists. Anything else you want to throw up here?
I think at the beginning when we first talked about this, we talked about craftspeople also.
Yeah.
I think we included art-like craftspeople.
Yeah,
I don't mean about
craft-
Jean
craft.
Craft, but there are
Yeah.
certain crafts that
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
are very artistic activity, and I think we
yes.
included those when we
Oh, yeah.
were first
Yeah.
drawing up this.
And we try not to be exclusive and leave anybody out.
Mhm.
We also wanted it, the idea was to attract people to come here and share their art with our community
Right.
and then want to stay here. And be happy about staying here.
Excellent. Yeah, that's like page 2. Okay, so just to touch real briefly, so then what do we mean by non-artists? Or what are we hinting at, right? It's a vision statement. It has to cover a million
People who don't think of
decades.
themselves as artists.
Okay, there we go.
Well, sometimes I think you can include the term non-artist as the public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
I
you
think
know
it's,
too.
I don't
yeah.
think it's exclusive.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to throw up here in terms of who are we trying to support with this program? Breaking that up so we understand that this is the shorthand for this.
I guess with the non-artists, you could sort of describe them as people who we could be trying to introduce to art.
Mhm.
Like people who might not think of themselves as artists, but in potential events or things that are organized, it'll really sort of like introduce them to things or expose them to things.
Mhm.
I'm going to put the uninitiated, but it's not exactly what, you know.
Sounds pretty good.
Okay. All right. We can add more at any time. So then the next question is, going down the list here. So what does engaging in the arts look like? Again, just kind of breaking this out, keeping it in the room as we go forward to talk about and assess where we're at. If the point is to help all of these people engage in the arts, then what does engaging in the arts look like?
Performances, participation, exhibitions,
Right.
observers.
I think it's just creating as much access to the arts as possible to the community.
Yeah, opportunities, providing opportunities.
I think Ralph spoke about that, that's
Good enough.
Creating,
Creating.
it's sort of like creating opportunities, but
Yeah.
creating new projects
Mhm.
or development, creation or development. And preservation, whether it's architecture or an art form that we want to continue or to nurture.
If we have up there appreciating art, people actually appreciating it. and coming out to engage with it.
And even pay for it. Spoken like a true musician. Could be volunteerism, too. Maybe about photography on the first page.
I don't know.
We can add that,
I don't remember.
photography. Oh, you forgot that one.
Other things you want to put up here?
Fundraising?
Is that,
That's
is
not
that
really
engaging
the
arts.
I mean, I don't know.
It is if you're a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Well.
well, that could be, I mean, that is part of this, so contributing and sustaining, I definitely put that
Yeah,
down
that's
there.
true, yeah.
Right, so,
That's what I was
and
thinking.
one thing that I wonder about, given what we said over here, is maybe engaging the arts is like identifying, because if part of it is to engage people who don't think of themselves as artists, and potentially engage with those people towards identifying as artists, or identifying art as valuable, something like identifying with artistic culture or something like that.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Or identifying or owning. I'll just call it cultural work. I use cultural work to cover like all of that.
Right.
It's easier for me than to be like art with capital A.
Right.
Anything else you want to say with engaging the arts?
Do you think about providing performance spaces, or is that part of sustaining?
Engaging the arts. Well, this would be from the position, what do we want to see these people be doing? Maybe
But there's been we've often talked, earlier on, people were always saying, we don't always have enough rehearsal space or performance space,
Mhm.
and
So
people need performance venues.
Exhibition space. Yes.
I'm going to say, I'm going to put being active, and then I'll put a little thing. More doing. Okay. Good for now. Again, obviously this is insufficient to the big picture, but just to say, when we look at what we're doing, we can say, are we doing this? Is there anything that's up here that we tend to be doing more, tend to be doing less? Okay, and the last question is, what does it mean when we say that we want artists to thrive and feel valued, given that when we say artists, this is kind of breaking out what we're talking about there. What does it mean, what do we mean when we say that? What does that look like? If the vision becomes true, right, where it's like 10 years from now, because it won't take 10 years, 10 years from now, this is happening, we say we are a city where all residents can engage in the arts, and artists thrive and feel valued here. So thinking about, okay, that's where we are, what does that look like for that to be the case?
Some of those words can jump over to the other side, because as a performer, we want to perform, we want to have audiences, we want to be able to make a living through our art.
Just
People want to have exhibitions.
Yeah, support through, it could be space, money, volunteer time,
Promotions.
promotions.
Managerial support, administrative support.
I think support and sustainability are like the two biggest things.
Yeah, that's a good way of catching it all in one thing. one
Also
one
perhaps
phrase.
recognition.
Respect, getting respect, gaining respect.
I think also having opportunities for collaboration with companies, schools, and
Mhm.
whatnot.
Yeah, expanding opportunities. Maybe having a chance to do something new
Mhm.
that hasn't been done before, or bring back an idea that hasn't
Mhm.
been done for a while.
I think mostly for young artists or beginning artists, the living conditions are very important. A lot of cities attract artists by selling them rundown houses for $1 and such, which they can convert into.
Would you say living
art.
conditions?
Yeah,
I
Conditions.
heard living tradition. Here
No,
we go.
Conditions.
yeah, where they can live cheaply and they can be creative, so they are not bogged down in the
Or
daily
studio
hardships
space,
of life.
Studio space, co-op space, space to work.
Yeah.
Like, space to be creative, although you can be creative in non-spaces too. Some of it has to begin here.
Depends on what your art is. If you're doing dance, you kind of need space.
That's true.
Other things we want to throw up here? So this is, and obviously it can be added to. It's important to come back to, I would say that every time that you guys have a meeting, to remind yourselves, and groups tend to not do this, right? But every time you remind yourself, this is what we're here for, and if you want to have something like this on the side, kind of like a secondary sheet that's like, the last time we talked about it, this is kind of what we meant. Because what this is this is kind of your mission, right, I would say. So this is your vision, but you have to reinterpret it every once in a while to understand, well, you can't do everything, you can't do this all at once, but you can do something towards this. So right now, you're identifying, this is what we mean right now by this. And in 2 years, we might mean something slightly different, we might change our programming a little bit differently. But right now, when we go to look at what the programs currently are and assess, are they supporting really in line with the vision, we can say, are they engaging these people so that they do this, and that we're moving towards this. That's your criteria when we move forward in a minute. So, way to go. You've given Pauline like the broadest, accomplishment number 1. Pauline now has like the broadest level that she needed. So even if we all had to leave today, right now, like she's got a lot of what she needs. Good job. Okay.
Well, I think we've done it. You summed it up a little bit in this listing of programs and things, but from day one till now, that's my perspective, and you've been here a long time. Some of you have been here quite a while. I think we're moving in a positive direction, and we've accomplished a lot of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, the program's growing really fast, and I was studying other cities' public arts programs, and I have to say I'm kind of proud of what we have right
absolutely.
now, because a lot of them
Yeah.
don't have varieties, like a lot of them just do sculptures, for example.
Sure.
So I think we're really gone above and beyond the past few years.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I think it helps from a standpoint of development of our city and promotion of our city too, that
Yeah.
we have this wealth to offer, so that if people are considering coming here, or corporations, that they see the kind of lifestyle we've created here. I think it's a very positive ambassador for the city.
Yeah,
I also think it's going to be great that Pauline, are you going to be full-time then?
I'm full-time starting this
Oh,
week.
great, okay. That is going to be quite helpful. I think one of the things that has held us back sometimes in the back is in the past has been because we had somebody who was only half-time.
Yeah.
And, we would have ideas and I'd give them to them and then they were like, I'm already overloaded, I can't do any more. So this will be very helpful. And I'm glad the city's chosen to support this, so.
Now, do you have support staff to help you? Do you get more help now, or do you just more of the same?
Just about the same, but
Well,
now
you
I
have an intern at certain times of the year, right? Or will
Yes.
they continue that?
We do have an intern, I think, once every year, just
Okay.
around when we have the grants, just because there's so much more to do.
Right.
But right now, I think I'm okay without an intern, and
Okay.
of course, I work closely with Brandon and Natalie and Suki, so
Mhm.
they offer me help when I need it.
Can you give like the 1 second, no, well, not really 1 second, but like the 30-second explication of what you just said for people like Jason and myself, to like, what does that mean that you work with Brandon and Suki and?
So Brandon's an economic development manager, which the public arts program falls under. And so Brandon helps me with thinking long-term, he helps me, with grants and things like that, so bigger pictures.
And the legal aspects too, right?
Legal
Yes.
aspects, so broader, more overarching things. And then Natalie is the marketing coordinator, so she would help me send out press releases when I needed. Most of the time, I just do my own marketing because I feel like the public arts program has its own brand. But when I needed, Natalie is there to help, and Suki does everything else from, you know, preparing for your meetings and whatnot. Thank you, Suki. No, we appreciate you. Great. So, job well done. Okay, part 2. So this is rooting us in, what are we talking about overall? I just turned the heat down a little bit because I was like, whew, maybe you guys aren't, but I'm getting a little blazed here. And we can
Well, you're
adjust
on, too.
as we need
You're
to.
on
I know,
slide.
and I've had
Because you're on.
polyester or something on me. Anyway, okay, so step 1 was to remind ourselves what's our current structure, understand what's the purpose of the program, what do we think the purpose of the program looks like, and so now we're going to move on to look at, okay, what have we been up to, what has been happening, and what are we're not doing a full SWOT, like the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, but to just look at the different programs and identify the ways in which, and this is our criteria, this is how we're measuring them, how do the current programs match up and support this, and where is there a gap? Either they don't, or they could, but they aren't quite doing it for some reason. So what you each will have, here, just pass these down. You have a little packet of way too many papers. And you can see for each aspect of the program, there's a strengths page and a weaknesses opportunities page. So there's markers. Markers are better than pens if you can, if you're up for it. To jot down key phrases, right, about, as I said, how do these things line up with this, and where is there a gap? Either because they don't, or because they're not quite there yet. And feel free to talk with each other about it if you need clarity about information, like you don't know what it does.
So are we then doing these all individually by ourselves, or are we discussing these? And
We're going to jot things down by ourselves, and then we're going to see what we've
Okay.
got.
Can't we discuss it a little bit first?
You can absolutely discuss it. You can do it either way. Some people are like, I don't want to talk. I just want to write because I've got too many ideas. Some people are like, I want to talk. So feel free to be talking and feel free to be writing at the same time. It's totally fine.
Well, my only thought was that sometimes, I think we're doing a lot of this, although sometimes the opportunities change from year to year.
Oh, yeah.
And so we might not be doing something one year, but depending on the grant applicants, for example, they might have an interest in one area, and so as a result, the committee might choose to support those particular projects.
Mhm. Well, I'm just saying as a
Oh.
project. So this is the level at UPTV Art Now as a program. Not specifically what did it do this last year, right? But as a program, what are its strengths and possibilities? And there's actually, both of these are together. So there's, once you get to marketing, don't do marketing because there's infrastructure pieces, marketing, fundraising, commission, committees,
These
that. Hold off on that. So right now, we're just doing the sculpture program, Murals on Glass, Art in Schools, Art in the Corridor, Art in Market, Art Now, in the Where's. And thinking at the level of the program as it's designed, right? Or broad level thinking. You do have, I'm going to give you this too. For people who want to write down detail level things, since we're not focusing on details, there's a little parking lot for you. So if you're like, what we really need to do for Art Now next year is this specific thing, that's great, but it's not what we're talking about, so please jot it down.
Thank you.
And you'll see there's one page that's kind of the at-large, whatever you want, and then there's little subsets for the different things you have. Again, this is for detail level.
Can I go to the back?
You can do whatever you want. Well, actually, well, you can,
No,
and we're gonna put it on the wall, so I can give you. I think there was more. Which one is it?
The sculpture program.
Let's go. Here you go. So, do you know the triangle? You just press it again. And if you start to lose steam or you want a distraction, you can start throwing these up. So we're gonna put them together by area of the topic. So all the sculpture things will go in one clump. Doesn't matter if it's strengths or weaknesses.
I'll have to forgive my handwriting and spelling.
Absolution.
I might have to
I'm happy to be your
translate
minister,
a little bit.
and that's my slogan. Absolution, absolutely.
Well, it's true, when you type all the time anymore and you don't write, it's like, I don't know about you, but my handwriting's not nearly as nice as it used to be.
I
'cause
I
don't-
write all the time and it's still terrible.
Yeah, me too.
I write all the time too. I'm full type and write all the time. So, okay.
Conveniently, you're all in the room, so you'll be able to clarify for us.
So we are doing sculpture, art of the corridor, art of the market,
UPTV.
murals on UPTV, but not the art in schools, not the
Arts in the
sub-programs.
Arts in the schools too, only,
Yes.
just not the infrastructure, so not marketing, not fundraising, not commission.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so with all the programs, yes.
okay.
Sorry not to be clear.
But we do have a fundraising committee.
It's true, but it's an infrastructure piece. It's not, like,
Mhm.
it's a mechanism by which you end up being able to do these things, so I wanna just keep it as a separate.
Okay.
Because fundraising will be the case regardless of your programming. You'll always have to do fundraising, even if you have a gigantic trust fund. Which will happen. And you since you're the initiator, you'll start the clusters.
Okay. So, yeah, that was all the
That's the big noise, exactly.
strengths and the weaknesses.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's
What
it's
we should be doing.
it's
Well, this
basic.
is just for stream of consciousness a little bit too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It
kinda
is
like-
for me.
Exactly. You're like, when I think about the sculpture program and I think about this stuff, I'm like, yeah, people walking down the street get to see art that they wouldn't, like, people stopping at the bus stop in front of the library are seeing sculpture. That's doing this. It's a strength. You get direct public engagement. You can say, but then maybe there's a place with the sculpture thing, you're like, well, but the problem is that it's a very, I don't know this, because I don't know about sculpture, but like,
yeah.
you're like, it's a really high cost. Maybe,
Yeah, well,
maybe it's
it's-
a higher cost per investment than some other way to engage people.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's
Mhm.
it's what are the pluses and minuses, pros and cons of the program, that sort of
I
thing.
just have to read the letters to the editor and know that.
For at least to know one subset of the programs.
Yes.
And don't worry about being comprehensive, right? Part of the power is off the top of your head, what's the first thing that you think of is the most, the way that this is most in line with it, and what's off the top of your head, the way that you're like, but gosh, there is this kind of glitch of whatever kind. And part of me saying that is to say, just jot down a thing or so per, we'll give you another maybe 5 minutes or so before we check in. And feel free to take a break and put some up, see what other people have written.
Can you remind me which things that we're holding off on because they're
Yeah, infrastructure cases.
Yeah, was it like the committees and that sort of stuff?
Yep.
yeah.
So we're waiting on marketing, fundraising committees, commission, and infrastructure.
Okay.
We're talking about the actual programming.
These things I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, so then you might even just
Oh,
do
is it
the
gonna all be in
description.
there?
Does it? So even just off the
Okay,
top,
cool.
right? Because part of it's
Yeah.
like,
This is good.
because it may even be that the description isn't actually capturing what it does, and you could catch that because you've got that new eye.
Right.
Any good questions, let me know.
Great, thanks. And when you put things up, just see, yeah, where the common topic is already. Oops, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, take a break.
Feel like you're in school?
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't even know if I'm on the same page with everybody.
No, no, no. That's why it's just like, yeah, just jot down one thing for each thing. You don't have to do a lot. You don't have to be right. Doesn't have to be an in-depth assessment. Trust that you're in a room with, at least 7 other people whose brains are also working on this. It's not up to you.
Mine is still
Be
working.
comprehensive.
Yeah.
I stared at this, developing a spreadsheet for 3 days. The database is like, I'm glad my neurons are still firing.
Thank you, Nora.
I needed a break. This was a good one.
Yes.
Fundraising repass, right?
Yeah.
You just want us
We'll
to
do it
leave them
later.
blank in the pile or take
Yeah,
them out now?
just leave them, put them aside for now, and we'll come back to them in a minute.
No, I'll do that. Then leave them.
There you go, don't look at them, exactly. Turn them away.
See what other people put up with me.
Okay,
Change my
thank you.
mind.
Yeah, Pauline put some great snacks out, so definitely replenish your, speaking of neurons, get your glycogen back up. Jason, your Grapeling pizzas are new and tidy. I know, it'd be. Just-
Oh. Oh, unappealing.
Oh, okay, right. So if it, yeah, there you go. Permanent, right, so if it doesn't hit the
Yeah.
right bell, it's this there.
I think the other one was basically suggesting that like you just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
They were nice when they were made, but they were kind of lose
Right.
aesthetic value over time.
sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
You can bring anything with their pockets.
Make a little.
He's a celery.
Right.
Should have brought.
I forgot about that. Didn't go in my mouth yet.
What was that?
Huh?
I'm just looking to see what's going on over there.
So wherever you are with this, wrapping it up and putting what you got up here, don't worry if you didn't get to everything, that's fine. There's a lot of people in the room, a lot of brains working on this,
A lot of similarity here.
and a lot of similarity we shall see.
Is my phone behind? Yes, I am. Well, that's good. I'm blabbing, I guess. That's okay. I still have one more to go. My wrist is getting
Oh
sore.
no, do you want a writer?
Oh.
I can be your writer. You know,
Oh, okay.
Same topics.
especially people aren't used to it, I think the
That's
muscles
just
are.
what I was trying to figure out when it comes to it. Here we go.
It's because we have a lot to say. Yes, we do.
Don't worry if it gets messy on the board, it's okay. We're really
You didn't do it, you should have done lawyer.
The phone's right outside. And they can bring it here.
Okay. Does it have
Well, we are not doing anything there.
They both have, you know, Eric definitely not. Kevin's been up
Oh, that's your facilitator.
I am trying to facilitate.
Okay.
Makes life easier. I didn't learn this trick for a long time. Because, sometimes you have to put up a lot of the papers.
Yeah.
And just the time it takes to try to rip it up in the moment. And one day I saw someone have all these pieces of tape on the easel, and I was like, oh my god, it's helpful.
And I do that, music librarians do that too.
Yeah,
Because you're always
exactly.
having to put stuff together.
Right.
You just pull off 3 or 4 at a time.
Absolutely.
Saves a few steps. So we're supposed to stick all these up, is that the deal? Or at least pass them down, or we tape up our own? Do we have an official taper, or are we taping? I think we tape our own, I guess. Okay, I can do it.
What is PAL? What is that? McCarthy? Is that PAL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be up for Police Athletic League or something, isn't it? Would it used to be
Yeah,
somewhere?
it could
Acronyms have different meanings sometimes.
Okay. Let's see. Do you get to have a snack if you put your things up?
You don't have a snack even if you know.
Never seen some.
You know what? You're here on your own time because of your passion for the arts. I think the incentive is apparent.
I know, I just do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Or you take the opportunity to give people a little pat. Right.
Okay, so those are the 2. Oh, we got hummus too. All right, you did it right.
There you go.
Thank you.
I should probably move out of the table where all the food is so that.
Or hoard it.
What?
Or
Or
you can
hoard it, I could be a
access
hoarder.
to it.
What's the password?
Kevin?
Oh, okay.
I'll move and then we can get more access to that.
Mhm.
I'll sit between you and Pauline, will that work okay?
There's comments too.
So are we putting all the strengths up on one level and the weaknesses on another?
The only thing I care about is that all the same programs in the same areas itself.
Okay.
But if people are making piles, then that's great
Oh,
too.
I'm gonna do strengths here. You can, oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm trying to stay out of your way so we don't crash. Thank you. You're over there, I'll be over here. Okay.
You going south at all?
That's the question.
Yeah, which one you looking for?
In the next month or so?
Supposed to do Raphael.
Oh.
You don't want to-
It's okay. You're advanced. I'm bad. You're advanced.
Oh, no, that's relative.
Yeah.
Just passed away at 65, that's.
I think they'll bring it
Yeah.
into honestly, I think it's gonna.
Remember last summer,
Or live
they
streaming,
were foreign,
continue
put it
your-
around.
I think so, but they might
Well,
not
it has
put
to be
the unnecessary
Right.
unnecessary plans.
Over.
I don't think it's streaming live.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we're not streaming.
Over.
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
Oh,
What
no.
am I
Yeah.
saying?
Why is that they didn't put it in, right?
That, the manufacturing, it's installed.
It's one of the rules of having many hats. But
But that's
yeah,
what we're
that one not
facing.
either.
Oh.
Only programs, only committee
Material,
programs.
Slightly different, right.
They will still
So,
be used, they'll still be used
But, you
later.
know, prepared to pass it away,
Yeah.
That's not so bad.
You know, January, they say it's a very bad month. People seem to hang on through the year, and then January, they have more deaths in January.
Yeah, this is a good friend of ours that lived in Santa Fe, and she's from England, but
Hmm.
just
Wow, that's,
65.
yeah,
seems
I
kind
know,
of young
we're
for
too
her.
much too young, much too
But then on
young.
the other hand, a good husband, an old friend of mine who passed away when he was 50 of a heart attack.
Really?
Out on the golf course.
Oh, well, that's the way to
Isn't
go.
that terrible?
Yeah, no.
50 years old.
Mhm.
We usually don't have food, so don't be surprised if there's no food
It's
next
our 50th wedding
Yeah, this is a
anniversary.
feast.
Oh,
We don't
my
usually have
goodness,
food.
that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Man,
Downstairs
Mary
in
was
variety,
my God.
and
And so
the
we were
council
planning on him
tables
coming,
have
because we
food.
just invited the people who were in our wedding. And he passed
help
away
you put
the
some more?
morning of our,
No.
midnight, we were gonna have it.
The only 50th I've ever, good friends of ours, they, bless their hearts, they,
Yeah, I just moved you down, Pauline, so that people could get in there, is that okay?
Oh, that's fine.
I felt like I was blocking the
all
party.
their friends out in Taos, New Mexico. So it was a wonderful, wonderful 50th. It was a 2-week event, so you can't beat that. That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
the problem,
They're 60, they're gonna
is
get
that
60
right?
years
Yeah,
old.
that's great.
Well,
Jack and I have lived here so long, we know so many people here, that we couldn't choose a few friends to do something like that.
Well,
with,
that's
you know?
tough, that's tough. You
You're
don't
also
wanna hurt,
very involved in everything, I feel like.
you don't wanna hurt anybody's
Right.
feelings, you know.
And then if you open it up to everybody, who knows what, who all would be
That's,
there, you know,
that's,
so.
that's.
Pauline,
Yeah.
you can take a run to the bathroom.
Okay.
So, but, so we just have the people who were in our wedding party, and,
Well, that's a good way to do it.
yeah, that worked
Yeah.
out pretty well, and almost everybody
That's,
was
that's
able to
probably
come.
about the only reason you could do
Yeah,
it. and
thank
not-
you.
but-
So Pauline,
Put somebody's feelings.
What you were saying is that you hire now full-time, but that's if they are not searching for another person.
We
You are gonna be there.
got
Yes.
married in
Isn't that great?
'87. I
Very
think
happy.
we're,
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I'm
Very
doing this
happy.
exact same
We met
things, but now I have an extra
Oh,
day.
okay.
So I
we've
used to
known each
just
other
do
30
day to day,
years.
Uh-huh.
making things like that. Now I can actually think long term.
My wife just
I'm very
turned
happy.
58 birthday
Mm.
yesterday.
Thank you for always being
Do
so
something special.
you participate.
Relatively
You make
speaking,
comments,
not as
really
special
appreciate
as
it.
we were supposed to do, because our daughter wanted to join us, and she's a nurse, and she's ill.
I feel like I've seen you around.
So we're gonna have
But I did know you were
a
just.
dinner.
No. I'm good to
That's our favorite place.
I have to find out.
The
The countdown is on.
We were just there last Wednesday night or something.
It's our
Already.
restaurant, it's our
Yeah.
restaurant to go to.
Yeah.
When my wife and I were dating, we met there every Friday for over a
Oh,
year.
that's great.
We were bona fide regulars. We
Yeah.
even had our own booth.
They knew when you walked in the door where to put your
Yes, well, we met right after work every Friday.
Uh-huh.
It's straight ahead, it'll be over to your right a little bit.
And then every Friday.
Mm, right.
So, they don't do
What's
that anymore. I don't think any restaurant does.
I would do that too. I go
Okay,
to
Steve.
There's that thing that you give to kids where it's like,
a restaurant that has
put
a
a
small
star
private dining
around this
room.
one, underline this, do this, and then the last.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
always added that.
Yeah.
And
I
the
don't
first
know how
instructions
many
read all the
years ago
instructions
they added
first,
that
then it says to
little
do all these
Right.
things, the last instructions are
I've never been in
And
there.
of course, me and everyone
It would
else
be nice if
writing,
you
there's
had
some
like a
smug
wedding
people who
reception.
follow the instructions to read everything first. It's like,
When we went there, and we were up on the other side by the coat rack, and
That's not my favorite. I don't,
Helpful.
our favorite spot
Within
is,
5 minutes,
they
somebody
call it
calls,
the
call you and
alcove,
say,
and there's
I don't
up
two
the steps there.
at the back
No,
on
but
that
75 people do that.
platform.
Mhm.
no.
And
read it, so-
one of those booths was our regular, and they're
Yeah.
very
Did you
accommodating,
read
you know.
what I
Yeah.
said?
If you call in advance.
I asked my students if they'd like.
Matter of fact, that's probably where we'll go for Valentine's Day, but probably a little bit after the day itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it'll probably be a madhouse.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Silver Creek, I keep getting emails from them, they're having a special.
I haven't been there in far too long. I need to go back to that restaurant. I haven't been there. For some reason, we forget about it. I don't know why, but we need to.
All right, folks are coming back, and all our little dots are up here. They're not dots, but our pages are up. So that was a big chunk of work. Just want to acknowledge, like, whew, thanks for that.
Are we
work.
done now?
You're crazy. I have to say, this first part was really like 70% of the work. Like that's what probably most needed. And then this is operationalizing that. I'm sorry, I went back to grad school and now I say operationalizing things. And
Yes.
not interdisciplinary, what I want to say, intertextual and all these things. Anyway, okay, so what I'm going to do is, now that we've kind of done the triage of everything at once, now we'll go through one by one and see what's up there. And we do not need to assess whether something is right or wrong. That's not what we're doing. We don't have to argue. That's not true. What we are going to see is, what do we notice in terms of commonalities? Because whether it's accurate or not, it's the perception that's in the room, which
Exactly.
means that we may want to attend to it, or Pauline attend to it in the language, or in what we understand about it, or what we emphasize about the program, or something, okay? So I'm going to go down, I'll start with the sculpture program. I'm going to read off as many strengths as I can find, then I'll go through and read off the opportunities, all the opportunities I can find. And again, the question is, what are we hearing that's common? And if you hear something, sometimes you can kind of hear an undertone, so it may not be that you hear a particular word repeated, but you kind of hear, oh, well, there's a sense that people really seem to like this one a lot, or something like that. So when I ask you for what you notice is common, it needn't be exact verbatim what you heard, right? Okay, so Urbana Sculpture Program, and you may need to help me with writing, but maybe not. So, strengths, introducing widely visible art to the community, great visibility, gets artists to come to Urbana, semi-permanent, supports public sculpture continuously, enlivens downtown and some other areas, venues highly visible, public space, good variety, worked with other sculpture orgs like PAL. Program has continued and has more sites than ever. For the first time, 2 private citizens contributed to give us 2 different sculptures. In good shape, good attention, support, and participation. So that's what we've got for our back piece. So what do we notice off the top of our head, commonalities around the strengths of that program?
It's visible.
Yeah.
The marker on this side. Oh, there's a marker right there. And, hold on. Pardon me, technical difficulties. I'm going to bring my chart all the way over here. And I will not hurt anyone on the way down.
You're going to have homework to do now.
Yeah, I know.
Perfect timing. This is great.
Sorry.
You're in time for snacks.
Did you get up okay? Was it hard to get up here?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So, Kevin, you'll be happy to know that we broke down the purpose or vision of the program
Oh, yeah,
into
no,
what it
no,
actually
yeah.
means for us. And that's on these sheets that you can kind of.
We're trying to make you feel welcome.
And that was a huge chunk of the work that we wanted to get out of it, so actually, everybody already has an A.
Kevin, we all just filled those out for all the different
And we filled out some
programs.
stuff, but you don't have to worry because
There's no room to put any more
there's
up.
no room.
There's no room to put any more up, so you're safe.
Have a water
Because
and some snacks.
it may be that we already captured what you'd said.
I bet
So-
you did.
We're just working on the public sculpture program. So the thing that we heard about its strengths, we heard visibility.
Mhm.
What else? What particular type of support? Like it's supported or it's supported?
Financial and community.
Well, and the
Cooperation.
private, cooperation with private people, or private organizations, or other organizations.
Thank you very much. It's usually 3D, which is an asset.
It's
Okay.
grown.
Brings artists out of the area.
All right. So with this, we have it written down. So it's not like I'm asking you to repeat what I just said. It's just what pops out as the major strengths. So with the weaknesses or opportunities, basically it was Kevin, we just said, in what ways does this support this stuff? In what ways is there either a gap or it's like off the mark in some way? So gaps are increasing public understanding of how the program operates, Because of staff limitations, all sculptures have gone through PAL. This limits the possible selection, also requires us to choose quickly as sculptures are available first come, first serve. Would like to have more artists work.
Oh, local
Local,
artists,
okay, local artists,
sculpture.
okay. Who selects the pieces? UPAC committee? Are businesses encouraged, invited to participate? Enough different styles? Are they too similar? Variety? Is that possible given the money? Poor quality of art? Poor movement? Something of art? Placement of art. We should provide more quality art at less locations. Low engagement, doubling PAL's work. I forgot what we said with this. So specifically, so that they might lose style over time because they last. If it doesn't have a style that we want, it's kind of permanently there.
Oh, well, actually they aren't, because they're only there for 2 years.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Right. So, but keeping in
We
mind
only,
that
we only have
that's-
one permanent sculpture.
Okay, so, but still knowing, totally great as a point of clarity, but do people know that, right? So, we just, again,
Sure.
keeping this in the room, it's gonna be tracked, you'll have all this information. It may be a perception you wanna address in the future, so that
Yeah,
people don't say, we're investing this heavy object that will, spend $1 billion and it
No.
lasts forever, and,
No.
okay. So what did we hear about the major key points of where there's a gap between what it's doing and what we're wanting to do?
I think that what you just mentioned is the clarity in having the public understand what's,
Correct.
I think that's the
Right.
biggest
That's
one.
how it works. Because I've heard so many people complain about local, like, sculptures, and if they knew that they weren't permanent, they wouldn't be like, I mean.
There'd be a way to put a small plaque there or something.
Right, or
that's
it would just,
where
I
the
think it would
art's
actually,
name
it
is.
could even get people more engaged, like if they really didn't like something, they'd be like, okay, when this comes up again, I'm gonna say something and I wanna be engaged, because I want, like, I think that if people understood that better.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's the
So I
biggest
want to
hurdle.
take a moment to clarify for everybody, but also for Kevin, because you just showed up, that there's, is this the extract? Okay, so, oh no, is this yours, or is this?
Here's some
an
extra.
extra?
No, what are you
No,
looking
these,
for?
these,
Oh, these?
The parking lot?
Yeah, the parking lot. Here you go. Parking lot. Okay, so what's going to happen is as we start to identify large-scale things with a particular program, we're going to also start to identify ground-level solutions. I want to keep us up on the broad level, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the program, and if we identify ways to implement, like there's plaque or there's changing the literature around it, that's where we put it on the parking lot, because just for time reasons, we have to keep on the upper level. But they're brilliant, and we want them, just write them down on the little spot. Okay, so clarity of the program, basically, in that it rotates. Anything else that jumped out for us? Yeah.
And it's also clarity in relation to Champagne's program,
Yeah.
the Public
Mhm.
Art League.
I don't think people understand the
Okay.
difference.
Great. Cool.
I think perception is the biggest hurdle, the public perception.
Cool.
Diversity was there too. Right?
Right. Diversity
Style.
is- Yeah, there was questions of the aesthetics and whether this is versatile for contemporary or whatever. Yes.
I don't know if this is parking lot or not,
Sure.
but
Please bring it.
like, who selects the sculptures?
There we go. That's part of the selection.
So we have like a small group of jurors. I think.
No, we don't, well, we didn't this year. This year was chosen by the subcommittee.
Okay.
I think part of that, and there's a number of things going on here. First of all, the reason we've been going through PAL is because there wasn't somebody full-time in your position, and so it was easier for her to do the call through PAL. But that also limits us to what PAL offers. Now, granted, the coordinator was one of the people on the jury for PAL, so you had some input, but you're still limited to whatever PAL offers. In fact, I should keep this within this room. But we did actually do another call of our own this year because we weren't happy with what we saw, and then PAL was very unhappy with us.
Right.
They
Just
were
on that
not
point,
happy campers.
What is the distribution of this tracking, just so we know like what level of confidentiality or not is there in this room?
No,
I don't
everything
know.
is accessible. Like
Everything's
But-
accessible, just so we know, everything is public
Okay.
open meeting.
But anyway.
Stays here.
That's okay, just so we know.
And then the other thing, of course, with PAL is that they have one big event where all the sculptures are put out at once, and if you want one, you gotta go, I want it right now.
Hmm.
But it's really hard to have input from many, many people if you're gonna have to go, I want it now at this event, or shortly after.
I
So,
think, yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, that's okay.
But I guess my question is that we have a sculpture committee on the Public Arts Commission,
Mm.
but
Oh, we do? No, not
we
anymore.
did. I mean,
We did at
have
one
that
point,
when we
yes.
did the Martin Luther King one.
Yes.
And so I
Well, there
think
was a
what-
particular one for that particular
Exactly,
sculpture.
and that's, I was on that when we first came, but it
Right.
seems like this should be a committee we should have, so that we have the commission totally involved with these, if we're gonna,
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of our goal, I think, so we should have 2 or 3 members from our commission on that, and then maybe we can work to not have to be going through PAL, we can have our own
Yeah.
thing and go through
Yeah,
our
and-
local artists and that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
and I'm fine, we don't need to discuss it right now, but
But I
yeah,
did write
I-
down
I'm
that there's no
perfectly open to
committee
that.
for it, so that's
Yeah.
one of the
That's
other
right.
challenges that you have.
Inactive at the
Cool.
moment.
So again, I'm part of my job is to help you get through everything in the time we have. So I'm going to scoop us forward. But
And yet, I don't know what PAL is. It's the Public
Public
Arts
Arts.
Public
League
Art League in Champaign,
Yeah.
it's their,
It's a private group
in Champaign.
in Champaign.
Okay.
Yes, it's a nonprofit.
It's a
They
nonprofit,
install
yeah.
sculptures around the city, and they've done a lot.
Okay.
But I think most of their works are in Champaign, so I think part of the reason why we try to work with them is just to get more sculptures in Urbana.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Okay.
we
Yeah.
have had some in Urbana.
Mhm.
did you
In the
want to
last
add
year.
something?
You know, I would like to add also that one year, I think 2 years ago or whenever it was, we actually looked for sculpture that in a group or topic, trees, which was suggested to us by the UBA.
Right.
So actually, there was an influence from an outside agency
Mhm.
in what do we want this? Do we really want any other side agency influencing or saying we want this kind of sculpture?
I agree.
But it was part of the city structure, right? It was a city agency.
Right, but on the
You-
level
yeah.
of where this goes into, I see it as lack of clarity around the rotation, around external organizations, whether it's PAL or whether it's UBA. How does the selection process happen? There's some
Yeah.
concerns. So that's
So
the level we're
define
at for this.
parameters.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
So that's what she can take away, right, like, there's, and then, like I said, if you guys have specific things, like, we want to establish a committee or do a next thing, please feel free to write those down on your parking lots. But I'm gonna carry us forward. Oh,
Sorry, can I add one more weakness? I
Yeah.
hope this is broad enough
Sure.
for this part. But I think PAL is already doing a lot, and I think they're a really good organization,
Mhm.
and I feel that this is quite a costly program for us, and it kind of takes up a lot of staff time. So I think efficiency in running this element is important.
Okay, so resources,
Yeah, and see
resource heavy.
where we can actually team up with PAL and where we can do our own thing.
And I'm just wondering if, I mean, we've had the program going for a while, and it certainly has been beneficial in some ways, in other ways, it has been questioned. I'm just wondering about the timing of how often do we really need to do it? Maybe we want to examine our timeline. Is it 2 years? Do we want to have the same thing? Do we need to do it as much if there are other programs that take priority? Or that maybe the public feels, I know there's been a lot of questioning of this program and the cost of it.
Well, of
so-
course, again, the public, I think, doesn't necessarily know what the costs are.
Oh, I know, yeah, that's part of the problem.
Which
Right.
will probably
When you
be true
have
with everything,
actual
right?
public
That's
art, I
actually
think
gonna be
you're
an
always
issue
going
with
to have
all of
some
these.
controversy.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So when we're thinking about this, part of it, in the back of our minds, we can be thinking about infrastructure, because part of the infrastructure is marketing, right? So an issue across probably everything is public awareness, as a member of the public eye.
Yeah.
And as someone who's been both in and out of the program,
Mhm.
I know that at one point I was a recipient, and I had really close friends who were also recipients, and I didn't even know that we were co-recipients. So
Mhm.
which is not like good or bad, who cares? But part of it is going to be thinking about, okay, when we move forward in a little bit towards our infrastructure pieces, how does this relate to public perception, marketing, and understanding through the actual wording in the literature, or to the degree that the program works on its promotion. Artists are notorious for not promoting themselves, and I wouldn't be surprised to find that the arts program would also be not so big on it.
Awareness.
So with the UPTV Art Now program, so moving forward to this,
I don't know if we got that many people watching.
so strengths of the UPTV program, regular active productions, large body of work, expression for artists, effective way to engage artists with community, publicizes art and artists and larger public, to larger public. Consistent quality, 0 staff time, stable, good exposure for local artists. Ongoing series, online access, details info on artists other than their work. Exposes local artists, a variety of artists, introduces local artists and their work to the community, tells viewers where they can see more of their work. Those are strengths. So what are strengths that jump out at us?
Exposure, large exposure, exposure of artists.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
High body
infinite,
of work.
infinite exposure, really. I mean, you could watch it in Japan. if you wanted to.
Being able to get to know the artist on a more personal level,
Mhm.
which comes back to art appreciation.
Yeah.
Works on that.
And I think the exposure kind of goes both ways, because it's a
Mhm.
good exposure for the
Yes.
program,
Yes.
and it's great exposure for the artist.
Yeah.
Ease of access, that's part of exposure, isn't
Education.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so with weaknesses or opportunities, one's a question mark, I don't know, independently. Mostly visual art, could have more viewers, access, need to expand the types of artists interviewed, although I think that's already happening.
Because we've added some people.
Yeah, there you go. Things that we heard or things we want to add that are where this program is off the mark or could be reoriented to better meet our vision. Anything else?
I'd like to hear.
it? And you two particularly,
It's underknown, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That-
is.
That would be one
We
of the
could
limiting
get
things.
more mileage out of it somehow,
Yeah.
underutilized.
both Pat and Jane worked very hard on this to make it happen. It wouldn't happen without the two of you.
Right. Okay.
Well, there were people
One
before us
slight
too.
correction.
Yeah.
Jason
Well, I know,
Leggett
but
does,
you took
there
them
is
on,
some
you
stuff,
Yeah, I
ran
did.
with it.
not in the
Okay.
comparing, but
Okay.
in the videotape,
Great.
he spends
Yeah.
a lot of time
Absolutely.
setting it up.
Great.
Back in
And
your-
that's city staff time, not program staff time,
That's
right?
right.
Okay, just so I understand. Okay, great. Fantastic. Moving on to, what can I see here? Murals on glass. Strengths of murals on glass. Makes community look nice. There you go. Offers opportunity to artists. One of a kind, cheap and easy. Creates an attractive downtown. Something about downtown. Enlivens downtown. Provides opportunities for local artists. Low cost. Visible, depending on the venue. Good exposure for local artists. Big images that attract public interest. Promotes local artists, especially as we give a short description of each one that is posted in public view. Going well as is. All right, what jumps out at us for the murals on glass? Strengths of murals on glass.
I think that is so unique.
Uniqueness.
That is really pretty cool to have it over there.
Nobody put temporary, that's one of the strengths, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's less risk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And less controversial too, in that regard.
Right.
I don't think anybody's criticized that. Has anybody heard any criticism?
And this is in the parking garage.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is that the
right.
only location?
No,
No,
there
there's
are
one
several.
on UBA's office, and now there's also
Oh.
one on Civic Center.
Oh,
There's two in Civic Center,
Yeah.
actually.
I guess local kids coming up.
Showcases local artists.
Yeah, especially because that program we have kept completely local.
Yeah.
We don't allow other artists in.
That's a plus.
For opportunities or weaknesses, where is it off the mark? Could create community divide on aesthetic value.
There you go.
Get businesses to, doesn't, I don't know if this is an arrow. You can out yourself or not, but it says get businesses to participate in the arts. Place more in downtown, 2D only, not 3D. Because of funding, images are up for 2 years. By the time public no longer sees them, they become part of the scenery. Having them in more sites would be helpful. Limited spaces available or not found yet. So what do we hear in the weaknesses? Opportunities.
We wish there were more.
Yeah.
I suspect it's harder for people to know what to submit. And it's like, who knows what can go into a glass or
Mhm.
sticker form? How would I put that? I bet Elizabeth has a better way to summarize that.
Well,
basically wrote down
I
what
mean,
you said.
when we do the call, we actually tell them,
Yeah.
you know, the dimensions and all that.
But people's minds,
Yeah, but I think it's been up there long enough now that maybe,
Well, so
I
this
don't
is
know.
where I think it's,
That's just me.
you know, we don't know the
maybe
answer
I'm wrong,
to this.
yeah, I don't know.
Right, so we
It's a
don't
question.
know the answer, it's a question, so that's cool.
Well, that's where your temporary point comes in, where they turn it into a negative, where it becomes part of the scenery, so it's invisible. If it's temporary, then you counter that. You know, if it changes periodically, you get people's attention.
I guess there's a challenge of getting more venues to participate. Right now, Civic Center is part of the city, but if we want more and more buildings, then we have to collaborate with businesses and all that.
When you expand, then it requires more cooperation, more space needs.
Well, and it costs
expense
more.
and-
So I'll put needs cooperation. Not that we're opposed to cooperation.
and my question has to do with, like, if you were submitting a proposal to 40 North billboard competition, you know pretty much any image could be printed and put up there. But I think imagining what could go on glass is just a little bit, like what could go in a sticker adhesive format is just a little bit more of a jump for people. It's a little bit
Or it's a little more intimidating.
It's a design parameter that we could
It
maybe.
is, it's right, because some of it's transparent. It could all be opaque, but it could be transparent.
Yeah, like I think graphically or something.
Yeah.
So.
What is the feedback on it from the public? Are people hearing, I mean, is it something we want to, I mean, I guess that's one of the questions. Do we want to continue that program, and is it getting a lot, is it creating a lot of benefit, or people prefer we put our energies and resources into another direction?
I know we got a lot of applications, and that's all I know for now, as I'm still researching it. But I think that's, you know, it has a big reach. I mean, artists are applying for it, and they know it exists.
Yeah.
So- And so I guess we accomplish our main goal with this program, which is engaging local artists.
Yeah, I was just curious what kind of feedback, if any, there was, except for, I mean, the artist who's up there, and I mean, I have a friend who's in one of those images, and he didn't even know he was up on display for the world to see until I told him.
Oh, well, I did ask
He
him
was
to tell,
happy.
I thought that might be a concern. I said, you want to let him know before they put it on.
So, I mean, you know, they were happy, and then I'm sure they broadcast it to their whole network, so it brought a lot of free awareness by the social network. But I was just curious if there was public feedback on them.
So I'm actually gonna ask you to give us some information about how how do we get feedback, kind of as a whole, after we do this. So that's
Okay.
what- That's what this,
But
right here.
you inspire questions when we talk about these things. you know.
Yeah, that's why it's like, no, really, I really need to write everything down. So Artists of the Corridor. Strengths. Offers artists a place to show work, right, ties right into our space issue. Engages local government with the arts. Appreciated by local artists. Effective marketing. Support. Very cheap. Provides opportunity to artists to exhibit works. Exposes local artists. Exposure. Venue space. Gives, I have to give the question marks here. Gives urban artists an additional venue for showing their work at no cost. Gives the public a chance to see art in a place they normally don't see it. They also learn more about local artists. Ongoing for several years, involves numerous artists. That's our list. So, Arts of the Corridor, strengths.
Exposure, cheap.
Showcases local artists.
I think it's, I think you said it there, forgot exactly, but it expresses that the city government, since it's in the city building, is supporting the arts.
Right.
Okay. So, opportunities, small space, low visibility, very, very limited audience. We need a publicly more open, accessible location. The 2-month duration means that only 6 artists can be shown in a year. Marketing, perhaps more variety of art styles to build interest and attract visitors. So opportunities or weaknesses over here.
Sounds like we wish we had more space and nicer space.
More exposure, we need more exposure.
Right, people
Yeah.
probably don't know that it's
Yeah.
there, that it's an ongoing series.
When I did it, I got most feedback from people who work here, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and possibly public perception too. Do people expect to come to City Hall and see artwork?
Yeah.
Do they want to see artwork
But
in public
that's-
City Hall, or they just come to get their?
But I think that's the cool thing about it, it's
Yeah.
like art in an unexpected place.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
but
what are you saying? You're
I'm
saying
just
this
wondering,
as a,
does the public care, or they're so focused on coming to City Hall to get certain things done that they don't take
Okay,
the time
so-
to appreciate what's there?
so I'm gonna tie that into exposure with like kind of recognition, and awareness in a multi-purpose space, kind of.
Yeah, at the very least, you'd have to have like one event and really advertise it to get people to know that it's there as a venue.
Yeah.
That would probably be the most important first step.
So, and then I think awareness, we're just gonna see awareness a lot,
Yep.
over and over again.
It'd be, it'd be like, especially follow through, like when students have their work in. This is a parking lot idea.
Nice job. I
thank
swear
you.
he's not a plant.
That's the kind of thing where if you could dovetail it to something in the News Gazette or something, if you could
Right,
get an
exactly.
artist, I mean, a reporter to get behind it and get the word out there, that would help a lot.
Yeah, and I think that will be true for a lot of the things, so again,
Right.
tying this to marketing and outreach in
Right.
general.
Oh, yeah.
So branching over to art at the market, strengths, well-known, appreciated by local artists, good visibility, lot of variety, good and wide reach, community connection, opportunities for artists, brings art to many residents, makes art participation possible for everyone at no cost, to the people who are doing it. Exposes students to their abilities, that's a nice way to say that. Exposes parents to Urbana Public Arts Commission. Have supported 2 strong multi-art proposals done in collaboration with teachers and artists. Needs more development. So this is kind of more of the scoop. We like it. We want more. Okay, what do we hear? Art at the market strengths.
It's open to a lot of people.
Open access?
Discovery.
Yeah, people that aren't artists, or they don't think they're artists, they can go there and become an artist, however you put that.
I'm gonna say gateway. Okay.
Mhm.
It's an opportunity for performers instead of just visual artists.
No, that's
Social
the point.
interaction.
So I'll tell you a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes here. So part of what this is by identifying the strengths of different programs, it's going to allow Pauline to see where. So for example, if we say, it's a lot of people, it's interactive, it's performers, then she's going to be able to look at the other programs and say, where do other programs afford these things that we like in this one? Maybe there's I don't know, I can't even think of an example. Maybe there's a way that the UPTV thing could actually be doing some of these things as well. That you do a UPTV version of a workshop or something, right? So part of what's happening is we're doing what we're doing at the time, but we're also generating resources of what do we appreciate, how are we finding that are the mechanisms that we're using to do the mission of the program, how are they supporting this? And then Pauline can look for, and everyone else can look for, where can we see those elements possible in programs where they are currently not being utilized to their greatest capacity. Okay, great job. Okay, opportunities and weaknesses for art market. Varying response and results, depends on weather, for example. Focuses on very limited segment of the population, specifically the children of well-to-do people. Too high cost per engagement. Workshops are limited to projects that can only be completed in a short period of time. Oh, this was something else, my bad. Let's see. Seasonal activity only, should expand. Awareness, question mark, notice the theme.
Yeah.
Open to public
Oh, I know.
and exposure. Oh, that was the strength. Oh, that's my bad, sorry, there was 2 strengths. So, backing up a second, some more strengths were exposure of local artists, opportunity for non-artists to participate, I think we captured that, open to public and exposure. Great. The weaknesses are varying response and results depending on the weather, limited segment of the population, high cost per engagement, limited to projects of short time, and questions of whether or not there's sufficient awareness that it's seasonal in activity, and that is it. So, weaknesses or opportunities for this project. What do we hear?
It's the seasonal, being seasonal.
It's only for the duration of the market.
I heard high cost, although I don't know anything about that.
I don't think it is high cost, honestly. I think it's pretty low cost.
Does it cost?
It says
You
high
don't-
cost per engagement, so.
Oh, no, not per engagement. I mean, we pay those artists very little. I'm sorry, but
We do.
But what about the vendors? Do they pay for their space?
I'm sorry.
Do the vendors pay for space?
yes, they
Their
do.
exhibit
Yeah.
space?
Yeah.
Um, Sorry, I lost my.
That's okay, no, we're good. So that you actually can only do it part of the year, and specifically you can
Right.
only do it with the market.
Right.
And then there's the question of cost per engagement, like per person who sees it. And we could ask that question of anything. How many do more than just the staff of the city see it? How do we know? This is evaluation mechanisms, again, back to infrastructure. Short term, that's it? That's what are other pieces?
I don't necessarily see that as a negative. I think that's kind of a fun thing, but it's just that seasonal kind of thing, something to look forward to.
And part of that is when Colleen goes back to look at this, again, if this is what we like about it, but it can only happen these times of year, well, can there be something else, like art at the interior, at the mall, I forgot the seasonal, the out of season market?
Holiday market.
Oh, yeah, the
Art
holiday
at the holiday
market.
market.
The winter market.
The winter market, yeah.
There used to be maybe it's just the sign of the times. A previous mall manager, there used to be a lot of activity going on in the mall all the time that was engaging youth groups and dance and singing groups and musicians, and as some of the business have moved out and mall leadership has changed, some of that has stopped, unfortunately. I mean, maybe there's more there's probably other things that have replaced it, but it's become a more business environment too, as some of the shops were moved out, so I guess we'd have to reevaluate whether we would want to do something like although that's not necessarily part of our mission as much. We're
Right, but at the level of
peripherally involved
where
in
else
it.
could we look, right, that's the level of this meeting is, hey, Polly, maybe you want to check into, are there other ways that we can offer this sort of opportunity somewhere else? Whether that is, something, we're thinking market because it's market, but is there some other thing? That's the kind of that level. So with, let's see, we'll go over to art in the schools. Strengths of art in the schools, okay. I misattributed this, so. Has supported 2 strong multi-art proposals done in collaboration with teachers and artists. Exposes students to their abilities, potentially exposes parents to the public arts program. Let's see. Provides opportunities to introduce children to activities of art and to participate in participatory art which they may not have otherwise. Loved by arts educators, has funded amazing high-impact projects. Lots of variety and participation. Reaching young minds and eyes. That's what we've got. So, strengths of art in the schools.
Sounds like outreach is a big strength.
The young thing that engages young people.
Yeah.
Eyes and minds.
Participation came up in there somewhere.
Variety of art too, music and the drama and the painting. Storytelling.
And in a way, it's low cost, because some of those children may not ever get to see a live event. Rarely. They might see it on television, but they wouldn't see live music or live dance.
That's important.
Okay. And then weaknesses and opportunities. Not consistent. Is the selection process fair? Very limited audience. It says lots of money. I think it says per super government, for something government. I'm not sure. Needs expansion and more development. Needs development again. Need to determine how we want to support art. How we want to support art in the schools through funding or through funding or providing ways for artists or art programs to connect with schools. Limited audience. That's what I think. So, opportunities and weaknesses of the Arts in the Schools program.
I just have a question about what it meant by limited audience. Just because we can't get to more schools, or
Yeah,
because when you are,
that's been part of the discussion among the group, is just more organized program. I
yeah,
mean, too bad that
I
it
agree.
isn't really.
It's not as organized as it could be? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
It's not
based
active
on
enough.
some of the conversations that we've had, the
Yeah.
room for expansion on that program would be incredible.
It's
you
great
know.
when I do a lot of in-school programs through another arts organization, and but not enough. I mean, 3 times a year. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
a lot. I'm the one that puts it together, so I say it's a lot, because I have to wear 2 hats, but I personally, I think when I see the reaction of the children and the participation that comes back and all the questions, I think they're hungry for this, and the teachers
You
really are
can't-
happy to have it.
You can't get a better return than getting young students involved and exposing them to things, like you said, that they don't normally get to
Yeah.
see.
So it sounds like most of the weaknesses are not what the program is, but that you want more of it.
If that would be
Yes.
possible.
Needs
As
expansion,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
And
ad
again,
hoc
if-
instead of systematic right now.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
correct.
It's ad hoc.
It's ad hoc, okay.
Yeah.
Cool, and that's, again, we can think about, okay, well, if that's what we want, we can say, well, what do we want about it? And if part of it is the young eyes and minds, then that might connect to, well, is there ways that this happens that some of the other programs could reach in participatory way, young eyes and minds through a variety of media, even if it's not in the schools? And that was one of the questions,
Mhm.
right, is are there ways to facilitate connections so that this target audience and these
Right.
activities happen? So, ad hoc.
We also have to keep clarifying art in the schools from Urbana's arts curriculum,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
which is which. And because if they begin to
Right.
rely on our programming, as in our discussions about the buses to Meadowbrook, we don't want to duplicate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
might be able to facilitate, it's the same thing with the buses and then teachers getting the substitutes,
Yeah.
or when it came to the symphony concerts that we do every spring, and we reach 5,000 or 6,000 students, but we miss a lot of them because they don't have the resources to come
Right.
and support, and maybe that's where our efforts need to be. I mean, those are things we could talk about too.
Yeah, that is part of the question, though. Whether
Yeah.
we do that or we try to bring in programs or connect artists.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, those are two different things.
True, but it helps us kind of focus on where we want to put our strengths, and we,
Right.
you know.
So, carrying on to, I think, our last one. All right.
Over there.
So the Royers Arts and Architecture Planning, strengths of this, have a number of plaques throughout downtown to highlight Royer buildings. Projects have grown and developed to bring awareness, preserve buildings and the Royer legacy, and create promotion for Urbana and education opportunities. Perhaps create more events to showcase the, I ignored it. Historic aspects, preservation, educational, potential to bring economic impact to downtown. Saved important buildings in Urbana, made residents aware of historic buildings. So those are the strengths. So strengths of the Royers program.
And this should be here. You will be happy to hear that.
Preservation. Covers all of it, doesn't it?
Education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awareness, appreciation.
Potential for marketing Urbana.
And branding.
I'd like to say one thing though. The plaques are not being put out by our committee. We put up one We financed one and that was it. The rest of them have been financed by various other sources and they keep going up, but the finances are coming from elsewhere. So we can't take credit for
Okay.
more
So
than
is
one.
that,
Okay.
does that fit into one of these? Is it a strength or weakness? Is it a strength that it's collaboratory?
It was a strength, somebody listed that we have plaques which draw attention to our
Right.
historic buildings. It's a strength,
Mhm.
but we are not doing it.
Well, no, I'm just wondering.
At this
I-
point,
We voted on I remember when we voted on the design for one of them, but I don't
Yeah.
think we've had, it never
No.
came up for us to be involved with further, thank you.
Okay.
We didn't have participation in any other
We
opportunities.
didn't have more money, that was the
Oh, that
bottom
was
line.
it.
We had money for one.
Well, that's a negative then.
All right.
Well, honestly,
Underfunded.
yeah.
So it's underfunded, but I think
Yeah.
the thing that I'm asking about is, it sounds kind of like something was a seed project here and that got picked up and spread. Is that true?
No, we didn't have any more money, but there is still interest
Well, that's what I
in
mean.
the community
Okay.
and so it's being pushed by various
Right.
ways. We are reaching out to get money from various
Okay.
sources to keep doing it.
All right, so tying into the opportunities or weaknesses left that we've got, perhaps create more events to showcase the historic spaces. Let's see, no clear goals this year. Scope could be bigger than the program's vision. Narrow, focus is limited. It has no financial support or some kind of support.
More.
Moral support, there we go. Sentence, we've added you, currently languishes, there we go. Need to find additional ways to highlight the Warrior contributions to the community. So what do we hear as opportunities and weaknesses of this program?
Narrow, basically narrow.
I have sort of a general question came to me because in Champaign they have PACA, Champaign-Urbana, the PACA organization. So I'm wondering, did the Royer committee work with PACA on these preservations?
No, but one year, PACA, we applied for money for a plaque and they provided resources, financial resources.
Oh, that's
for
nice.
plaques. That was right after money here in the committee dried up.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, generally, I'm wondering if we are working with other organizations and making the most of our finances and resources and everything. If we work with like PACA, work with PAL, work with all these other organizations, the schools, would that expand our ability to do what our goals are?
Sure.
So that actually segues beautifully. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so what I want to do is we did this. We put all this stuff out here, and then we got some little kind of summary points off of it, right? So, and then we could see, part of seeing this is, yeah, we've got information about each program, but partly we see what we value about the types of programming that we have. What are the qualities of programs that we find this? So whatever program we have, we can say, we value that there's a diverse audience in terms of age. We value that there's different forms of media, not only visual and 2D arts, but also participatory arts. That things change, that we're not just doing one thing and it happens for the next 20 years, but that there's themes, right? We're starting to notice. So what I want to do is I want to kind of just read back over these things in brief, and then in summary for this section say, were there any themes that we noticed overall around what weaknesses we have or what strengths we have? So I'm just going to go back over these things and first identify just read off the strengths overall and ask you for themes, and then I'll read off the weaknesses and opportunities. We'll do it again, okay? So, and thanks for bearing with these iterative processes, but it helps kind of really funnel down what are the key pieces that are conserved over the programming, and I'm so glad that she is so happy. I just want to say to have you guys here and doing this. She's like, I really need some information, and I know that it's happening, so that's great.
Overload.
Yeah, she's gonna have a lot of papers. Okay, so preservation history, education, awareness, appreciation of arts and branding, marketing for Urbana, outreach, young eyes and minds, participation, variety of media, lots of people, access, discovery and gateway, performers, not only visual artists, interactive, cheap, exposure, local artists, conveys that the government supports art, unique, temporary, low risk, low controversy, local, exposure, of artists and of programming, getting to know artists personally, art appreciation, ease of access, education, visibility, support financially, and also community support, three-dimensional, and extra community artists, i.e. artists that are not from here. So overall, what jumped out in terms of what we think are the strengths of our programming, our current programming?
Sorry?
Exposure came up a lot.
Yes. Kitty corner. Local, supporting local artists.
Some of them are financially rewarding. They are cheap or free or easy to do
Low
financially.
cost.
Yeah, low cost.
I think the government, the government showing support of the arts. Or local government.
Is it fair to say within this that across those, we see diverse sectors of Urbana supported? Education, government, I mean, you've got very different, there's diversity of programs there. Businesses.
Getting people access to participate.
So there's just straight up access to engage at all,
Mm.
and then there's participating, which is a separate type of
Right.
thing. Anything else?
Education seemed to come up a lot, too, didn't it?
So something neat has happened, which is that when we do this, we end up seeing, okay, a lot of these things were what were on the vision, so good job, great feedback, but also some new things came up. So education wasn't on there explicitly. Low cost is not something that it's the goal exactly, except it comes into it being accessible in terms of the program's sustainability. It needs to be, given the current budgets, that needs to be that. Having a visible presence that the government supports art is a way of saying that artists are supportive that wasn't up there, that I would say we should tie back over, demonstrating that the government, specifically local government, is supporting. And we helped illuminate, again, what do we mean by artists? Who are we talking about? Right, we're talking about different types of people. Okay, so the same thing on the gaps, right? Opportunities or gaps with current programming. I keep I'm on your plate, sorry about that. Underfunded, narrow, lack of clarity of the program, public perception, low diversity of style, no infrastructure, costly, problems with the frequency, low access, underknown, underutilized, want more of it, lack of clarity for artists to know how to engage, things can expire, the visibility can expire, needs more space, needs more exposure, needs more awareness, limited in terms of seasonal and being short-term, potentially high cost, limited audience, not as active as we would like, expansion needed, ad hoc, and needs to clarify.
Limited access seems to have come up more.
And awareness. Like
Awareness.
Local awareness, yeah.
Been
Clear
working on that for years.
clarity was coming up a lot, clarity of function.
Right. Connection maybe is a word. You know, to make those connections to the public about what's being done and.
Right.
Low diversity of styles or forms.
Something about the cost came up a few times. Cost benefit questions.
So this is gonna function for Pauline, it's like, okay, we need to continue and up these, right? And we need to address this, right? So the last piece that I wanna give us some attention at before we schedule out is to talk a little bit about infrastructure and just kind of doing a quick assessment when it comes to, so you've got more papers. I'm not going to ask you to sit and write down all the papers, but I want to articulate that for the interest of time, I'm not going to have us all write down separate things, but I definitely invite you to write down if you have more ideas than are coming up right now. Again, please write them down. I want to make sure to capture them. So some of the pieces are infrastructure pieces, right? So there's marketing and outreach, there's fundraising, and then there's the clarity of roles, for example, like clarity of job, like what's your job being on the committee? What's your job? What's the relation between city council and like that sort of thing? So clarity of operation, clarity of purpose in terms of, you know what the purpose is, now we know a little bit more about what that means. Do we have issues, do you have opportunities or needs in that area? So I'm just gonna throw it out there, in the land of any of these things, fundraising, marketing, outreach, infrastructure, let's go for needs and opportunities first, because that's the most important thing to understand what we need to move forward on. So what are the areas of need or opportunity with regard to marketing, fundraising, outreach, infrastructure?
We need better marketing.
Right.
I've been saying
Time and
that for
resources.
years.
Yeah, just in this,
Time and resources.
yeah, finding the best possible ways to get people's attention and make them aware of what's the
Yep.
opportunities that the council's offering, or the commission's offering.
Yep.
You know, the News Gazette does have a lot, gives out a lot of information on the arts in Champaign-Urbana. I'm always impressed with all the stuff they have between the Et Cetera
She's with
magazine.
Melissa. She
And
does a
Melissa
good
Murley
job.
does a great job on that. So I'm wondering if we need to have more of a connection with Melissa Murley, you know, and let her know what's going on
Yes.
all the time.
Yep.
Send her a
That's a
summary
great idea.
of
She
what's
might
going
even
on.
consider that to be an asset.
Exactly.
Right.
She doesn't have to come talk to you, you're gonna send her that information
Right.
kind of thing.
You might be able
In
to.
any of these areas that we're talking about.
And I think the same goes with 40 North, and like with Kelly White and
Right.
getting her, because if she knows about these things, she's gonna tell everybody that she.
Right, and that's another example of who I'm saying we should coordinate with all these
Mhm,
different
Right.
art groups.
There are a couple of radio stations too, or even CI Living, the 4 o'clock.
Barbara
It's
knows
important.
every place in
Radios.
town we can get the word out, so you want to talk to Barbara when it
Yeah,
comes
we
to
had that
marketing.
meeting, didn't we?
Yes.
So
So-
in the future, we should, sorry.
We can get on the radio once a month or something, like they do it with the Cranard Events Coordinator, they go on one of those, WDWS, I think it is.
Yeah.
And they talk about what's going on this month, what's coming up, and what are you working on, and you'll have a little more presence that way too.
Yeah.
So I hear a
It's just
huge,
how much can we
huge
clone you?
sigh of, we want people to know more about
Oh,
the
yeah.
river. And it came up
Pauline's trying
across
to say
a lot
something
of
to
things.
me.
So these are really good ideas, and I hope in the future we can, you know, I can get details from you, like which names to reach out to.
Right.
But right now, Natalie, who's helping me with marketing, she actually has a list of contacts. So
Oh,
every
great.
time something
Yeah.
happens, she just sends a mass email to everyone. That really helps.
Sure.
But of course, I don't really remember who, you know, who's in the list, and maybe there are names we can add to it, so we'll talk
Right.
details.
I think
So who did we have that meeting with? Was it Anna or?
We've met with each coordinator.
one talked
Yeah.
So I want to
Yeah.
highlight that this is an area of great need. So obviously, outreach and marketing, it sounds like that came up first. If nothing else, we know that came up first. So then looking at the other pieces, so there's, I mean, fundraising, people are always going to say, we always need to do more fundraising. I have to say that awareness is your key, as I also am a professional fundraiser, awareness is your key to fundraising and support, but, and developing relationships. In terms of infrastructure, I'm wondering, what are areas where there's a lack of clarity or something where the infrastructure needs to be developed? Whether it's like you have committees that don't function, or you don't have a committee for something that you need a committee for, or you don't know what your role is on the commission, or you don't know what Pauline's role is, or something like that. What, in terms of the infrastructure, what are areas that need support?
connections across programs. Maybe that's not infrastructural enough, Elizabeth, but
Well, I'm gonna put it up here.
how to get somebody that comes into one program and also be part of the others, so that we make the most of what we have, you know. We've seen this happen to good ends when someone is an Art Now who's also an Art and Corridor. So I think more on integration like that.
Okay, great. I think not just this connection across programs, but across subcommittees. Because every subcommittee does their own thing, and then it's briefly mentioned in the Public Arts Commission meeting, and then usually people just know the broad ideas and they agree.
Well, sometimes you address that in your meeting notes, but maybe sometimes although maybe it should come from you legally. I'm not sure what the aspect, but maybe some committee member could share ideas, but usually I think legally they probably have to come from you.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, we can't talk in groups of more than two. So.
Right.
No, but I mean, as
About
far as
business.
reporting information to the committee, rather than have one member of the committee as a subcommittee member say something about it, you usually do the summary, or report on behalf of the committee.
Yeah. Anything else jump out wildly as
I think
infrastructure piece?
I think it's not just collaboration with those organizations, it's clarity of our different functions we serve. I think we need to clarify our function compared to those organizations,
Mhm. Yeah.
especially 40 North and the Public Art League.
Yeah.
Well, even within our own organization, because as we grow and develop, sometimes our functions or our purpose change sometimes it's because of a project isn't going on, or it's suddenly going in high gear, and then we have more meetings, and then for a while, there'll be a hiatus, just to understand how we can best utilize our personnel to help you do your job.
Is there enough, this is a question I really asked you on an infrastructural level, is there enough awareness of this group among the rest of Urbana's city organization? Like, do people know we're here to use us for things?
I'm guessing no. I'm sure we could raise that somehow.
I think maybe if some of us have personal relationships with
Right.
members, then they have more awareness, but I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that question.
Mhm.
So what I want to invite us to do now is to pull out your at-large parking lot and give you just a minute or two to write down any scrapbook-y ideas rattling around. Right, so these are things you didn't get to say, on-the-ground ideas of what you'd like to see happen.
Are these ideas that we haven't already discussed, is that?
Yes, yeah, this is the like catch-all kitchen sink moment of you didn't get to say something,
Okay.
write it down. And maybe there's nothing, but maybe there is. know that, we're gonna do a follow-up, online kind of similar request, but just at this moment, there might be a hotbed of ideas, But please continue writing them down, and we will ask you for them shortly. I mean, online. In just another minute or so, because I want to wrap up so you can start your time. Please wrap up the sentence that you're writing, knowing there will be other opportunities to give me input. So I want to just let you know that what you just did is basically a full day retreat in 2 hours. It's like, woo! And so what's going to happen from here is, there's a lot of things written down. Obviously we kind of parsed most of this out and kind of summed it a couple times. But Pauline, I'm going to give Pauline some kind of guiding tips on how to synthesize this so she's not left to swim and all this stuff. The major accomplishment that was huge and that we really need to do, and we got it right away, was to give Pauline guidance and input on what does it mean to try to be implementing the vision. And that's what we did at first, and excellent job on that. And then through the course of identifying strengths and weaknesses, we actually helped parse that out even more in terms of who is it that we're trying to serve and in what ways. So that, I think, is fantastic and awesome. So what will happen from here is that Pauline's going to take all this stuff and breathe for a minute and then take it into
It's good
account.
that even in just 2 hours, though, it seems that everyone kind of comes to agreement. So that's can happen.
No.
It's not.
So, and there's always more, right? But yeah, I'll give some. Basically, I'm going to just give a little bit of guidance on some of like how to pull some of the things I said. Like, don't forget that the overall strengths are going to indicate key points of kind of like criteria for implementing programs, that sort of thing. Going forward from here, also just going to coordinate with her to send you a kind of a follow-up email that's like, oh, by the way, we had this thing, your brain's probably on fire, or over the course of the next week, you might have more ideas and more thoughts. So she's going to send out a kind of a follow-up pool. And then, do you want to say anything more about what you're going to do with all this hoopla into the budget land?
Sure. So I'm going to make this draft kind of my basis in creating a proposal. And next month's meeting, I'm going to present to you my proposal for the upcoming year's programs. And if you approve it, and in April, I will present to council. But yeah.
Yeah, great.
I think
So
that's
that's where it's going.
Question.
Yes.
Would it be possible for us actually to participate in putting that program together instead of you personally putting it together? That's how we used to do it. These meetings used to be deciding about this question. I mean, evaluating what we have done so far, and in the next meeting discuss. So where do we want to go from here?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the director of the program who took that on. but it was the committee together that decided that we would really like to go in this direction or that, instead of you bringing it in and we say yay or nay. I think it's very limited. I think our input is very limited with that. I mean, all we can say is, well, it's good or it's bad, but okay, the real thing is, so where do we go from here?
Okay. My only concern with that is that I would prefer if we do it that way, there would be like even less clarity of our roles as commission members and coordinator and, you know, economic development manager. Because from my understanding, the commission has more like an advisory role, and that's a really important role. You're giving all these recommendations for me. But I think in designing programs, if I don't even know if that might be like against some.
Well, I just want to say, I think I see it less as a yay or nay, because I think this has been the input for one. And if we hear a proposal back that doesn't reflect address of what we've talked about here, then we can say, what happened? And
Yeah.
not just yay or nay, but what happened to that part of our conversation, or that part?
Yeah,
And ask for,
yeah,
because I'm really grateful for someone to kind of take an initial sketch rather, I mean, I don't hear it as like a
yeah. It-
yay or nay
Yeah,
vote.
I can see that, but I think we have been going that way, and that's why I'm worried, because we have been going with the yea or nay vote. And that was my feeling. We have very many, excuse me, I'm not gonna go on forever, but we have very many reports in every meeting, and the reports go on for 40 minutes, and then we have 10 minutes to discuss very serious things that affect the work that we are doing in this. And I think that's altogether wrong. Either we have to reduce those reports and say, you come in here and we want to hear for 5 minutes and no more, and only 3 people, so we talk 15 minutes, and after that we talk 40 minutes, turn around that time. So we really have an input instead of just going there and having 10 minutes to vote when everybody wants to go 10 to 6, we want to go home. We don't want to sit here for another 40 or 50 minutes discussing anything. And I think that's a very, very bad management of a public art program that may go into the...
So what I put down was that there's the length of reports taking up meeting time and not leaving enough time for deliberation, and that there's maybe concerns about limited input on, well, there's structural limits. There's structural limits on your capacity. I mean, actually, the way it's written down, you actually don't have that role. So is that something that should change towards the future? That's something that could be taken into consideration. But as it stands, yeah, it's a really valuable and limited role, and that's a boon, as you said. It's a boon because you're like, I don't have to do the work. And it's a limit for those who want to participate. Structural.
Well, especially for those of us that have a history and we have been very actively participating, and then suddenly it's like, well,
Right.
what are we doing?
So
We're
this
not
is
doing
part of the
anything to help
clarity
with this.
piece.
We're just showing up.
Yes.
And I think the reason we're on this commission is that we are people who are concerned citizens who want to help and improve things and be utilized, essentially. But if we're not, it's like, do we need to be here?
Because defining the committee, the purpose of the committee, of the commission,
Yeah.
And reviewing it.
Yeah.
Because
So, and
our
that's-
function has been changing as the different directors
That's right.
have been changing.
That's right. And so that's what, someone coming from the outside, when I asked about documentation, I see, outside opinion, I see that there is a lack of documenting what job descriptions are and what the roles are, and that there has been, probably because people in Pauline's position have transferred, you all have a momentum of knowledge that was really necessary to support people integrating into a new place, because it's, when you have a one staff program, one person goes, and it's really hard, even when you have great people who are willing to answer questions later. So I definitely see, as an outside person, clarifying what is the structure, how do the decisions get made, how would you change the structure? If you wanted it to be more participatory program design, where does that go through city council? How does that happen? Do you know those answers? I mean, we don't have time to deal with that now, but those are clearly here,
Yeah,
right?
well, some of those were defined more clearly at the end of last semester.
Mhm.
We just haven't had a chance to really act and address them until this moment.
Yeah, yeah. And this is very common. This happens all across
Perhaps
the
in
boards.
terms of structure, or what you call infrastructure, you know, I've only been involved maybe a couple of years now, and we've seen the turnover that we've seen in the key full-time person. Maybe there needs to be given, not that you're gonna leave in 6 months,
Don't be
but
funny, don't be.
maybe there needs to be some thought given to like a second level or an intern beyond that to ensure greater continuity.
So I'm writing
Because, I
continuity
mean,
is what
I've seen it happen twice,
we've-
and
I've
I
seen-
haven't even been here that long.
Yeah, we've had 4 now.
Because, and again, you know, if I had to step into your role, I would want something like this, because without that, some kind of method to ensure that continuity, it's almost optimistic of us to think that we can proceed full steam ahead without,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and just think all the joy you have of reading back all those minutes of every meeting.
Yeah.
Does it have a soporific effect?
Yes, I can imagine. That's lots of caffeine. So I think that part of, and I don't know, who this is up to, but if there's a way to facilitate, I know you have limits on how you can meet and that sort of thing, but to be able to leverage your collective time, right? So that when you're in person, you're making decisions, when you're collectively in the same space, you're using that time for things that need you all to be in the same place for, which partly relies on, if you're gonna disseminate information in advance, everyone has a commitment to actually reading that material, because part of the reason why people read things in meetings is because people don't read things before the meetings. So that's a bigger conversation than now, but certainly it sounds, I knew there was, it would always happen in the last 2 minutes. It sounds like there's definitely conversations to continue to be had, and we can figure out how to ask you some questions, follow-up questions about this in that follow-up thing. Yeah. So in wrapping up, I would just like us to, classic, right, to just go around and say something. We're talking like 30-second version because we don't want to be here another 15 minutes, but the 30-second version of something that you appreciate about anyone in the room or about this meeting. Whoever goes, we'll just start. Great.
I'm really glad we got to discuss structure a little bit, because that really gives me an idea of, your commitment and how, you really want to be a part of what we do. So I appreciate that, and I think I'm going to think on this and see if there's a way for you, even in your advisory role, to, have more impact in the program.
We'll just cruise around.
Well, evaluation is always important in any effort at any
Okay.
level. And
Yes.
again, I mean, it's invaluable. I mean, it's probably not the thing that most of us look forward to doing on any level, but it's necessary. So I've found this useful, and I'm pretty sure that she has. If I was in her seat, I'd want something like this.
Great.
I've already spoken about some things that I've thought and said some good things, but I thank you for being here, and did you invite her here? Did we just have a wonderful opportunity? How did you come about to come join us and help us?
Well, I
She
heard about
invited
you
me.
from several people, but she's involved in Common Ground.
Right.
Oh,
I
we
mean, we read
Jasmine.
we knew your bio, but I thought, did you just have this wonderful opportunity fall in your lap, or did you encourage it, or how
This
did
is the
how did this all come
forward-thinking
about?
skills of this woman. She wanted this
Right.
this meeting to work well, and she knew
Mhm.
that having someone from the outside would support it. And so,
Yeah, something with
it's really
someone with
good.
an initial perspective.
Oh,
I
so
I
we
think
did.
that she has come on with a mixed bag here, because of all the transitions we've
Right.
had, and so everybody's kind of coming, hoping that she's gonna come through and be the shining light, and she's saying, wait a minute, I need help with this, and I need to see what everything structurally and how it all fits together, so I think it was a very good idea to have,
Well, especially with the last person was in the position for what, 6
9
months?
months.
9 months.
8 months, something
9
like
months, yeah.
that. It's so hard to bridge that gap. I mean,
Yeah, and she came in at the very point when we had to do the budget.
exactly,
That was the killer.
exactly.
That is a question, though. Do we know how much money we're going to be able to work with?
actually, do you mind? I just want to wrap up officially the reflections on like something you appreciate about someone in the room or something
Okay.
you got out of the
So
meeting,
we
and
got
then we
carried
can
away.
have
We got carried
follow-up
away.
coffee table conversations about stuff.
Well, I just appreciate that you all care so darn much. It's great.
and I think Pat's done a great job too, holding us all together and coming to all the meetings during all this transition too.
Yeah, and for me, this is a great first meeting.
Mhm.
Because it gives me a really, I mean, I'm kind of in the same position you're in, just jumping into this. This is
Good timing for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good timing. Yeah. So this
About
is
total
great.
immersion.
Yeah.
Really.
It was really useful.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that we could have this meeting, because we used to have these, and I felt that that was extremely important for our work, that we discuss what's good, what's bad, where we are going, what we want to do. Without it, I think the program is not gonna go anywhere, it's gonna stagnate.
Right.
So I hope that there will be follow-up.
So I'm grateful for the way Elizabeth ran the meeting I was able to be here for part of. I'm sure the first part went as good as the second part. Grateful for that mission. It's really rare to have some of those values up there in a civic art program in my experience. Grateful that Jason's here. Looking
Yes.
forward to his involvement, and grateful for Pat's leadership in our meetings. You really I think you keep our meetings as effective as they can be with our
Thank you.
current infrastructure and as we move
Yeah,
things.
and that's going to change.
I think it's good. I
Yeah.
think it will.
No, I mean the infrastructure.
Yeah,
will
and I
change.
mean,
Yeah.
it's really been great.
bring a hook.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Well, I appreciate, I do a lot of this sort of work, and people have varying levels of attentiveness, and you guys we're at the end of the day, and your level of energy and engagement is fantastic, and as a community member, as I told Pauline, I'm just so grateful when this program started, and for the many people who've been part of it long-term, people who've gone in and out of it, it's just such a boon to our community, so keep remembering that. Keep remembering when you start your meetings, go back to that purpose and remember that that's what you're doing, that's why you're here, and it is happening. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.